There's a great book that was published a year ago up in Woburn, written by an attorney, and it's known as Woburn, A Past Observed. It's a great book, and there's a section in there on Winchester. And in 1850, Woburn was really a boom town. They had about 5,000 folks lived in Woburn, and Winchester, the area we're standing, was part of the town of Woburn. It was a boom town in that it had a thriving brand new leather industry. It had a new fire department. It had a new library, a new high school, and one of the first commercial banks in the area. There was only one loss recorded in that history, and that was the loss of a large piece of acreage to the south, known as South Woburn. And what led up to that separation of now Winchester and Woburn was caused by three things: religion, politics, and new blood. At the time, the Winchester area became a rapidly growing new population of people moving from the Boston area towards the city or the town of Woburn. And as they grew, the people that lived down here felt that they needed a church closer to the church which was still located, the First Congregational Church in Woburn. And there was a major dispute among all of the Congregationalists as to whether or not they would allow a church to be built here in Winchester. And the folks down here decided to build it anyway. And they built it with their own money, and the First Congregational Church of Woburn never agreed to give the First Congregational Church of Winchester any money which they had contributed into the endowment fund. And that dispute festered for many years until politics entered the picture. And in the early 1840s, President Andrew Jackson had a surplus of U.S. funds in the U.S. Treasury, and he decided to distribute those monies to the cities and towns in Massachusetts and all the states of the Union. And when the town of Woburn got the money, there was a major political discussion as to what should happen to the money. Now, believe it or not, this is very similar to what may be happening in the state right today. But down here, the folks in Winchester believe you ought to save that money for a rainy day or pay off the old debt service. And the people in Woburn, which made up over 70% of the population, believed that that money should be spent on behalf of the taxpayers. That dispute polarized the community. And what happened was the Spend It group decided to split it. And the town of Woburn voted to take all that money and distribute cash to all the taxpayers. And as the history of Woburn indicates, that those folks who lived in South Woburn were horrified. And so what they did is they petitioned the legislature to allow them to break off from the town of Woburn. Now, in 1850, when that was before the legislature, Woburn had a town meeting presided over by a moderator, such as today. And the moderator called the meeting to order. There was a large crowd from Winchester that had ridden the train up. The debate went for hours, and the debate finally concluded in a vote. And the vote was, the majority voted to allow South Woburn to secede. And with that, all the Winchesterites rushed out of the meeting celebrating, got on the train, and headed home. But the town meeting hadn't ended, and somebody moved for reconsideration after all the Winchester folks left, and the town meeting reversed itself and said, we're keeping them. All of the folks in Winchester are reported to have been outraged, and they took it to the legislature, and the legislature decided 150 years ago to allow Winchester to separate themselves from the town. Now here we are, 150 years later, At that time, there were only 1,320 residents of Winchester. Now we have over 20,000. And 150 years later, this community is known as a community that has a very high quality of life and a place you'd like to live and raise your family. It's known as a community with a great school system and a high quality of government, including a AAA rating. And ladies and gentlemen, the town meeting recognized that a year ago and asked that the town officials appoint a committee, and that committee was appointed, and what their job was is to find some sort of a suitable celebration of our 150th anniversary. Now that committee consisted of the following people: Dot Butler, Elizabeth Bowles, Janice Byford, Harry Sheffalo, who has been on every committee for the last 150 years, Janice Dolan, Ralph Johnson, Marcia Lampson, David Leland, Fred Lyman, David Mortensen, who served as the chair, Deborah Nowell, who incidentally is celebrating her birthday today, another major milestone, Edward F. O'Connell, Stephen Parkhurst, Sandy Rogers, and Nanette Shanahan. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what they have come up with is the events we're going to review today. We have 5 presenters, and they will present various things to various town officials, and we should remember that after this there's going to be a walking tour for various historical significant facilities in town. I would like, before we introduce the first speaker, to introduce somebody who many of us that are here will remember, and that is Jenny Volpe, right there in the blue. Mrs. Volpe is a longtime resident of Winchester. Her husband was Governor John Volpe, and they lived over in Everett Avenue for many years. And a wonderful family and a wonderful lady, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us today, Mrs. Volpe. Ladies and gentlemen, the first is the presentation of the official town flag. And I'd like to introduce at this time, presenting Sandra Rogers of the Design Review Committee and Priscilla Owen McPhee, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, as the recipient.
Thank you, John. As one of the members of the 150th Committee, it gives me great pleasure to present the town flag to the Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Priscilla Owen McPhee. After 150 years, it seems somewhat noteworthy that the town of Winchester will finally have an official flag. And I want to say briefly that putting together what would be on the flag, designing this flag, has been a wonderful project, and we look forward to have it flying for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds more years. But this really started, I believe, with the fact that many people, and some of you here present perhaps, have gone to the State House and have visited the Hall of Flags and have craned your neck trying to see where the Winchester town flag was. And of course, it was not. It was not there because we did not have a flag. So at this point in time, or very shortly, you will be able to go to the State House and you will be able to see the official flag of the town of Winchester flying there. For the ceremony today, we are putting up the first flag, and I'd love to have Priscilla join me for a moment because I'd like to open up the flag so you can see it and I can briefly explain its significance. It's not windy enough for you to see it once it's up, so I'd like you to see it now. You may recognize this seal as something that you have seen in black and white on all of the meeting notices, election notices, On all the letterheads at Town Hall for all the committees, you see a black and white seal at the top of the paper on a cover of a warrant. And when it was discovered that the town seal actually was not only in color, but had such lovely colors, it was the unanimous choice to have the town seal be used on our official flag. You will notice that in the center of the flag is a blue circle, and that is to represent water. And there is a green band that's on the outside, and that is to represent field. And you will note that Waterfield was the name of the town before Winchester. 150 years ago, this became the town of Winchester, and the colors Waterfield were adopted along with water lilies in the flower band and also daisies. So this flag actually has not only, I would say, a traditional background, but as soon as we saw it, there was no question as to what we wanted on the town flag. So I'd like to give the mic to Priscilla so she could say a few words.
Thank you. I just want to say on behalf of the entire Board of Selectmen and on behalf of the citizens of Winchester, I want to express our gratitude to the entire 150th Anniversary Committee who so successfully shepherded this project through to the wonderful finish that we conclude with today. And I also want to acknowledge the Chamber of Commerce for their generous contribution, which made the development of the flag possible. I also want to acknowledge two of my former colleagues, Josh Alper and Steve Powers, who were very strong advocates for the development of realizing a flag for the town of Winchester. So on behalf of us all, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I should mention, ladies and gentlemen, that the United States flag was donated yesterday by the Alper family, and that flag was presented to the Alper family by the Department of Defense on the death of Josh Alper's father this year. Ladies and gentlemen, the next speaker, a gentleman who I think almost everybody here should know, former library trustee, former member of the Board of Selectmen, former school committee person, present member of the committee, Edward O'Connell. Mr. O'Connell, sir. Mr. O'Connell will be talking about the time capsule.
Mr. Sullivan stopped just short of introducing the late Edward O'Connell. Now, in speaking of that, at the last meeting of this committee, some 15 of us, we were wondering who, if any one of us, might be alive in 2050 when we unearth the time capsule, and we figured there might be two. Deborah Nowell, who although she is 1 year older today than she was yesterday, was still the youngest and I might say the most attractive member of our group, and Harry Sheffalo. And Harry is 94 years old, and he's indestructible. So I think Harry will be with Debbie on that great day. And when I started playing around with the time capsule, I realized that we are a small town. And although John Sullivan has told us that in 1850 we numbered no more than 1,300 and a few more, and today we number 20,000 and a few more, we are still a town that is small. This is small town America, I think, at its best. And when I started fooling around with the contents of the time capsule, that bore that out. And I looked at one area first because of my own interest, athletics. We had a Little League team that went to the Williamsport World Series in 2 consecutive years, in 1955 and 1956. We had a great hockey player for the Boston Bruins, Eddie Sanford, in Precinct 4 today. We had the great winner of the Heisman Trophy, a hero to all Winchester, Joe Bellino. And we had another professional athlete, the greatest basketball player from Winchester High School, Bob Bigelow, who played in the pros for Kansas City and for the Boston Celtics. And then I looked for great achievements, and you can't put them all in, so I singled out 3. Our good Governor, John Volpe, Governor, Secretary of Transportation, Ambassador to Rome. Alan Cormack, who won the Nobel Prize in 1979, and Rick Hout, who in 1983 was the command pilot for the space mission Challenger. And then I looked at disasters, because in a human society we have our great moments of happiness and rejoice, and we have sad moments. And the Beggs and Cobb fire, which overnight took something like 200 people out of work. We had the loss of the Vincent Owen family, of those great skating championships. And we had Francis Butch Morocco, killed in Vietnam, for whom we named the Morocco School. We have great institutions in our town. The Winchester Hospital, which last year, in a survey of the state hospitals, private hospitals, Winchester was the #1 ranked in terms of the reaction of its patients to their treatment at Winchester Hospital. And we had the great Dr. Jim McDonough, who was the only doctor from Winchester ever to be president of the Mass Medical Society, who for 30 years was on the board of the New England Medical Journal. And the best estimate is that Dr. Jim McDonough brought 14,000 infants into the world. We are a generous town, and I'm only going to cite 2 examples of that. The ABC House, and we have made marvelous strides in the preparation of those young men who come from the Bronx and Chicago and Cleveland and get their education here at our high school. And the Winchester Scholarship Foundation, which has been extremely generous in providing post-secondary school educational opportunities for thousands of our children. And I even looked for a religious note, and I thought back to the year 1979, when the Winchester Men's Choir from Winchester Cathedral in England came to perform at the Church of the Epiphany. And I remember that day so well, because you could not have gotten one more person into the church that day. And we are a town that offers so much to our citizens. And there are papers here that give the contents of the time capsule, with one exception. when I got the pair of basketball shoes from Bob Bigelow, shoes that he had worn while a member of the Celtics, I decided to put one in the time capsule and to have the other one renovated so that Barbara and I could use it as a vacation home. And having said that, where's my buddy Carl Frizel? Carl, it is an honor for me to ask you to join with me in burying this monster, because if I don't get it out of my house, I will be in the divorce court.
Thank you very much, Ed. I'd like to state on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, of course, and all the citizens of Winchester, we're very appreciative for this gift to the town. And I'll just add one thought. To me, the special quality of this gift is like a family album. It's the collective memories of the members of this community, and it's an important link of this community over the generations. And it's very important that we keep these memories, and we can't thank the committee and Ed enough for the effort they put into collecting these very special mementos. And I would like to hope, and I think it should be all of our wishes, that 50 years from today, we will all return. Perhaps if we can't all return in physical presence, we will still return in spirit to this spot to commemorate this day 50 years from now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Carl.
Photo album.
Thank you very much. Very good. Debbie Nowell's still here. Seeing she's going to be the only one here when they open it, there's a couple of us would like to make sure that Eddie really put all that stuff in there.
Listen, after that heavy digging, I'm going to file a
workers' comp. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce the Beacon Brass Quintet, who have been kind enough to join us today. The Beacon Brass Quintet. Next, ladies and gentlemen, in the presentation of the new Winchester poster, may I introduce the presenter, Mr. Elston Miles, volunteer for the 150th Anniversary Committee, and the recipient, James A. Johnson, member of the Board of Selectmen. Excuse me. This doesn't happen to me that often. Miss? Sorry.
On behalf of the 150th Committee, I'd like to present you with our commemorative poster. Our effort was made possible by Tom Norton, who did the photography, and Jason Associates, who did the design. And if you want to know which windows these are, they're posted on the table over here. Try to guess first. It's a real puzzle. We chose windows because they're the portal by which light will shine from the present to the past and from the past to the future. Thank you.
On behalf of the Board of Selectmen, I'd like to thank you for expressing Winchester in a unique way. It's one of the first, and I think everybody in town will have fun driving around to 57 Palmer Street, 60 Lloyd Street, 36 Everett Ave, 30 Everett Ave, 559 Main Street, 5 Myrtle Street, 3 Warren Street, 498 Washington Street, the Feng Yang Restaurant at 710 Main Street, and 14 Prospect Street, and the last would be the DPW garage. So I'm sure right after this, everybody will be driving around town trying to check them out. Thank you very much. Thank you for all your effort.
Thank you, Jim. Elston advised me that these posters can be purchased right over here and also at Bookends and Sassy Sissy. Ladies and gentlemen, next presenter is Frederick Lyman of the Winchester Historical Commission, and the recipient, Charles Nuremberg, a member of the Board of Selectmen. Lyman?
Thank you, John. I have some prepared remarks, which I'm going to read. This is the presentation of an historic map. It's presently being restored. Regrettably is not with us now, but will be next spring. Back in 1991, my family moved to the Greek Revival House at 21 Washington Street, built around 1845 by Nathan Johnson, our first chairman of the Board of Selectmen. I was poking around in the basement one day, not long afterwards, when I spied a long tube of brown cloth up under the floorboards. What I carefully dislodged and unrolled that day proved to be what is now considered to be the oldest and most complete map of Winchester following its incorporation in 1850, including its fields and meadows, houses with owners' names, waterways, and roads. Whether Nathan Johnson commissioned it for his own use and how incredibly it lay undiscovered for nearly a century and a half in the basement of his house are tantalizing questions to which we have no answers. In 1992, my wife and I donated the map to the town archives. There it lay rolled up for another 9 years until the approaching sesquicentennial spurred the Historical Commission to mount a campaign to get it restored and displayed. The map measures over 5 feet by 8 feet and depicts the entire center, east, and south sides of town. Happily, though it's in a very fragile state, it is restorable. After carefully examining the map, the T.K. McClintock studio agreed to undertake the project. But we needed outside help in fundraising. That resulted in the drafting of grant applications by Nancy Schrock, who's not here today, but to whom we're all deeply indebted for her initiative and her expertise. This year, the restoration project became a reality. It became a reality when many generous contributors stepped forward. Lead gifts totaling over $5,000 came from the Rotary International, the Winchester Historical Society, the NCOS Society, and the Winchester Arts Council. It's the vision and generosity of these organizations that make the restoration, mounting, and display of the map possible. Chuck, I regret that the precarious condition of the town map meant that its restoration could not be complete by today. But when it is formally unveiled next June, I hope that you and many of us here will be able to participate. The map will not only be a wonderful research tool, but also a genuine visual treat, full of information on a place and time far ago, and a very, very different place from the Winchester we know today. So until next spring, on behalf of the Commission and the many donors who made the restoration possible, please accept this color photo of the map before restoration.
Thank you, Fred. I appreciate the opportunity to receive that as a selectman. And I'd like to thank you and the Historical Commission for the gift. I'd also like to thank all of you for sharing this 150 celebration today. It's a wonderful day. The weather's cooperated. And again, I'd like to thank the 150th committee for putting the program together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck. Ladies and gentlemen, finally a dedication of History of Winchester, which is going to be a permanent sign. And the presenter will be Carol Keller, and the recipient on behalf of the town of Winchester will be the new town manager, Brian Sullivan.
here today for the celebration of a very historic event for the town of Winchester. Certainly, the weather has cooperated. We've been so fortunate in the sesquicentennial year. Both of our events and walking tours have had just classic New England weather. And in starting the dedication of the sign, I would first like to recognize the contributions of 4 members of the Winchester Historical Society. We call them our sign committee, and they have worked diligently, at least for a year, to make the sign a reality. I would like to acknowledge the contributions of Randy Barnsfather, Ed Delaney, Dan Ritze, who's with us today, and Ellen Knight, who also is with us today. My deepest thanks to the sign committee. Additionally, I would like to thank all the members of the Winchester Historical Society. Remember, we are a volunteer organization with over 200 Winchester families as members. And I really need to probably thank many more of you, folks who attend our spring historic house tour each year. It's really the funds from the membership and from the house tour that enable us to attain our goal, which is really to enhance the awareness of the history of Winchester. And certainly today is a wonderful example of that. The Society hopes that this sign will forever, and I notice Sandy said for hundreds and hundreds of years. I'm aggressive, I say forever. We hope this sign will forever offer to all the citizens of Winchester a glimpse of the wonderful history of town. The sign is two-sided. It will be a permanent sign installed at the end of Town Hall, near the path that goes to the library and to the mill pond. One side shows the history of the town of Winchester, the 1854 map, and has pictures of the homes, the industry, and farms that were once part of our community. The other side shows historic Winchester Center and highlights the structures and of the history or location of the history of downtown Winchester. The sign, when complete, will be installed at the end of Town Hall, and it's in its final fabrication right now. So without further ado, let me get back to see Brian. It is my pleasure and my honor, on behalf of the Winchester Historical Society, to donate to the town of Winchester on the occasion of its 150th anniversary of incorporation, the sign of the history of Winchester.
Thank you, Carol. On behalf of the Board of Selectmen and the entire town, I accept these fine gifts from the Society. Earlier listening to the history of Winchester from John here, I'm looking through here, there's one picture that's missing, and that's that town meeting that they held a number of years ago in Woburn, that scurrilous town meeting, which they reconsidered, did not allow the town to break off. But again, we appreciate this fine gift. This is just another example of the fine work that the Historical Society does, and it's much appreciated.
Thank you, Brian. Ladies and gentlemen, that completes our presentations. And right now there's a Winchester walking tour that will be conducted by the Winchester Historical Society and to be led by Ellen Knight, who is a well-known local historian. And she's right there, and they're going to meet in the front of the town hall. Anybody who wishes to make the tour, they have a microphone with them so that you'll be able to hear on your way. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Historical Committee in the town of Winchester, I thank you all for coming. Have a good day.
I tried.
Okay, no, the other thing is I'm thinking that you can take a shot at another.
Hoping for some wind.
Yeah, but you stand here for a while. Back another day.
Yeah.